Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you a DbD discussion video. Yes, today we are going back into the abyss. The devs held a Reddit AMA again, and it's funny that I didn't realize, I thought I was like the only one that wasn't trying to look at some of the answers. It seems like that was a lot of us, where we kind of put off looking at it. Because we all kind of know what to expect from these now. But this time around, there was one answer to a question that I put out. I didn't ask it in the Reddit myself, but I put it out on a video a while back. And somebody then did my video better than me. Um, I doubt they saw my video, but it was pretty funny when I saw somebody else do it in a much better fashion. Um, but there was one specific question that I would hope had a different answer, which led to me looking into this AMA a little bit more than I intended. And we're just going to start so I can start ranting, I guess. I don't know what this is going to be, but I'm not happy about a lot of these answers. I knew I wouldn't be happy, but it's also super disappointing. So let's start. General. General perks. Okay, with the return of Stranger Things, many useful perks have now disappeared from the pool of common perks for both sides. With Jolt being gone, for example, baddies no longer have any regression perk unless they buy or unlock new characters. Are there any plans to rework or improve the current pool of common perks to make it more useful and accessible for beginners? They answer, this is something we were just discussing in a live design meeting yesterday. Right now, we have no immediate plans to introduce new general perks. New baddies are also up against new survivors, so gen regression perks are not necessarily needed at this level when players are learning to play the game, and the base character perks reflect this. That annoyed me to no end. Now, please don't be in my comment section just disrespecting the devs, but this answer, and I can only assume that, the people answering these are either people that are directly on those teams that are behind the changes, or they're just the people that have to give the answer. And this annoys me to no end because in my video where I'm talking about how we need more general perks because of things like this, what sense does it make that the people starting off don't have access to an entire genre of perks? Regression perks are arguably the most important for the bad guy side of things. Now, Mister, you don't use regression perks in your videos and your streams or whatever. How can you say that? You haven't been playing with those perks for a year plus. That is very true. And the reason why is because I've been playing this game long enough that I don't need to bring that. Does that mean that I win every game? No. Does that mean that I lose every game? No. You could obviously see that in the videos, right? But I already know what I need to do in the game. If I'm down terribly, I have played the game long enough to know, you know what? Maybe this would be an instance where I would need a tunnel, camp, slug, whatever mean bad guy, baddie thing us bad guy mains do, right? I've been playing long enough to know that's the call I need to make. Now, I don't do that because at the end of the day, I don't care this much about these games. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I'm not trying to 4K every single game. I much rather prefer the theory craft into how a perk will interact with a baddie's power, and then how that can generate an entire playstyle. That's what I'm in it for, and that's why I make the build videos. If I wanted to just tell you, oh, this is the best build for this baddie for this month, I could just throw on three regressions that I had to buy from somebody else, and I could do that for every single one. I could throw on lethal, corrupt, pop pain res, and call it a day on everybody. I could, but will that help me? No. Regression is training wheels. Nobody wants to admit it, but playing with regression is just training wheels. It's the guardrails at the bowling alley. Is that to say that you have to play with them off? No, not at all. But if you want to see the extent of how far some of these bad guys go and what they actually do well with, take the training wheels off and then actually push yourself to play the game without those perks. But for a new player, they need the training wheels. They need to understand what's going on. So what happens is, instead of just making a cute little general perk, right? A cute little keeping jolt in the game. Instead of something like that, you have it so that two things, one of two things happen. The person sticks with bad guy, they grind, they buy their first character, they come into some streamer's chat and they go, guys, what baddie should I buy? And they go, well, what do you, somebody that you want to play? Well, I'm okay with playing anybody, but like, who has the best perks? So then they go, well, I guess you could buy Artist, you could buy Cenobite, you could buy whatever. And then they get it, they get the character all the way up to P1, prestige them for the first time, and then put it on their favorite character that they've played so far, and they're still getting their butt kicked because they are only playing Trapper so far with now Pain Res. Okay? And what does that do for anybody? Who does that help? They didn't buy anybody besides this one. They don't even like Artist. So then the next part that is inevitable for a lot of people, they just turn it off. They stop playing. And I don't really care about the number of people playing this game every day, month, whatever. That's not an optic that I look at to then make some inflammatory video on YouTube talking about the game's going downhill, everybody's leaving. Because the honest truth is, this game has now found a flow that, hey, if they keep releasing the Chuckies and the Alien and the Myers and whoever else, that'll bring new people into it, even if for a day, for a month, whatever, they've made their money back on that investment. But what does that have to do with common perks and why I'm so aggravated by this? New on new lasts for about a week. Lasts for about a week. If that, right? A week of you actually playing this game. And don't get me wrong, we've all seen the Survivor solo queue teammates that are just bad. Like they've been playing for 1,000 hours and they have not gotten any better. And you've seen the bad guys that have also done the same thing, and this is why they've done the same thing. Because they already don't have any tools, and they don't know what tools they would have even needed. Now, this isn't going to be a pity the bad guys portion of this. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, you have somebody that is actually trying to learn the role. Now they don't have anything to help learn the role, and the first thing that everybody does is look up videos, and they don't know the right people to watch. And I'm not going to tell you that there's necessarily wrong people to watch. No, I'm going to take that back. There are definitely wrong people to watch when it comes to this game. So what happens is they stumble upon a person that is no, that's too petty. Um, let's say a very quote unquote what they believe to be skillful individual. Okay, and they just see that oh, okay, they've tunneled the first guy they saw, and then uh, they they made sure to stand this close to the hook so that, oh, there's an unhook mechanic in this game. Okay, okay, I'll make sure to not do that. So, all right, and then I'll do it to the next person, and that's how I win all my games. And they're not going to get any better. So then they think they're getting better, and then they finally buy pop, uh, pain res, a jolt when they finally get super bored, right? And then guess what? They're doing the same exact things, but now they have regression. So now those things have gotten easier for them to do very slightly, but they don't know how to do anything else. So now everybody's upset because everybody's tunneling, camping, slugging, whatever. And, well, you can't remove those from a strategy, or else, what? Or else you just make it so that, okay, well, now as a bad guy, I feel like I need all of the regression perks because you've made it so that I can't camp, I can't tunnel, I can't slug. Now, mind you, they haven't addressed all of those, but just, shooting from the hip, right? And what do? So then you just get stuck in this endless cycle of, well, I just need to throw on more regression because the new player never had a chance to learn because they didn't have the tools to learn it. Bad guy is a very stressful role, especially if you let it be. Like, it's very annoying when you're just like, how did they do that? Like, honestly, I was playing earlier today. I was trying to record something, and I left the gen at, I want to say, like 30%. It was definitely less than half. Hooked somebody right next to it, and then it popped before they got the person off of the, like, right after they got the person off of the hook, and the person still had over half of their hook meter left. So I'm like, okay, so that couldn't have been more than 20 seconds. Do you know how? Well, turns out that they had stakeout hyperfocus, toolbox, and the other one had proved herself. And I'm like, man, haven't seen all of that together in a few days. And things like that will just randomly catch you by surprise. So to say that new players don't need tools to combat anything because they're going against new players isn't true. This is a game of who brought what that game. And new players aren't going to learn if they don't have access to those things. If one new player knows that, hey, I should bring a toolbox because I want to do the gen faster, which is an item, by the way, that's free, and say two of them bring toolboxes, hey, because new players don't know how to use flashlights yet. So what do? What do they bring? They bring medkits, they bring toolboxes. Because that's all they know that they need to do in the game right now. They're not going for saves. They know, all right, I need to do gens so we can get out of here. I'm going to bring a med kit so I can heal myself so I can get out of here. That's what they're bringing. And then, funny enough, while I was talking about strategies there, I made a note of this one, but I didn't realize it was right under this one. This is the next point that kind of irked me. As it currently stands, a lot of information in the game is obscured from bad guys. Most notably, bad guys are unable to see the hook stages of survivors. Many players argue that it is necessary in order to discourage bad guys from tunneling, But others, like myself, believe that baddies who choose to tunnel will do so anyway without needing a reminder. There are many other instances of hidden information, such as Plague's infection progress, the pig's RBT timer, etc. Are there any considerations to revealing this kind of important information to bad guys, even if it comes at the cost of a compensation nerf? Answer: it is true that tunnelers going to tunnel, but it's also a bad guy strategy we don't want to outright support via our UI. Currently, we don't have any plans to reveal this information. Why does this bother me? Because why did you take the time to answer this? Why did you take the time to answer this? This is one of those duh? Because even the person that asked the question has answered it themselves. Now, if you're looking for confirmation, why? Right? You already know that tunnelers going to tunnel. That's true, which is unfortunate, right? But how would you support it via UI if bad guys saw the hook stages? Now, mind you, I don't agree with one. I don't want to see the hook stages. I don't care, right? I really don't. It'd be helpful, but I don't care. But if tunnelers go in a tunnel, how is saying that the UI having that information would support it? Because, quite frankly, tunneling, I think we all forget what it actually is just going after that one person repeatedly. You put them on the hook, they come off the hook, you go for that person again. There's no point where you need to consider who it is that's about to get tunneled or who you need to tunnel. If you're halfway in the game and you go, well, the person that I hooked earlier is the person I need to focus on now, that's not tunneling, right? So why did we answer this? Now, what was. Let's pull up my notes. All right. The next thing that. Oh boy. Three gens. Are we able to receive any hints on what the solution for 3 gen might be? Hint: PCB goes out in January. Awesome. Thank you for that. In all seriousness, what I can say is we have tried very hard to solve the problem without interfering with normal games. Wait, one hint. We think you'll get a kick out of it. You are very late to be addressing kicking for the gens to be answering this. That's that's not a tactic that holds the same strength anymore now. So now it's confusing why you would be even thinking about addressing this. And now that I know that I shouldn't say I know, but now that I have a hint that it involves kicking to some degree, I have less faith about what they're about to propose to us. Because how in your right mind do you, if the game, mind you, we're in a state where the game hasn't figured out how to not make 3 gens, right? And by the way, if you were asking my opinion on 3 gens, I know you didn't, but you're here, so I'm going to tell you. That's completely survivor inflicted. There are four survivors at the start of the game. Even if a bad guy has corrupt, it goes away one way or another. And survivors have access to things like deja vu. Then the next part is game inflicted, where we have some things like the pier on Swamp, in which you can have two gens spawn next to each other, and then what do you do? As the you just lose out on that once the survivors recognize that's the setup. Because mind you, it's just two. So if you keep that in mind from off rip and you try to protect those two, that means the other gens will be done and you look stupid. But if you don't and you let both of those go 5 feet away from each other, well, now you're two gens down at the cost of pretty much nothing to them, right? So when you have instances like that in this game, you're telling me that you're going to now address kicking to some extent when the best regression perk right now doesn't really call for you to kick it? And then what? Right? Because if you're somebody like me where you don't use regression, does that mean that at the end of your normal game, you just can't kick a gen anymore for even that 5%? Without interfering with normal games does not fill me with hope. But hey, we'll see. Because what, do you put a cap on how much a gen can regress after being kicked or damaged or whatever? It's just then you're just back to creating another problem. Like, you know what? I'm not going to get into it because that's just completely my own mind talking. So I won't. I'll give them benefit of doubt for now, but not really. The next, I just want you to see how many times FOV comes up because this was goofy. Why was there so much addressing of this? Why did we spend 3 questions on it? And why did we answer that? This was just stupid to answer. Is it just for bad guys or survivors getting an FOV slider too? Bro, you see in third person. What are you talking about? How would you get a? Why'd you answer that? This is dumb. Why'd we answer that? Don't I tell you all I hate stupid questions. That's a stupid question. Why'd we answer that? But hey, FOV slider, and also, why'd we answer it? It's simple. FOV slider. It slides to give you FOV. This is another example of DbD players don't play any other games. It's not this hard to figure out what an FOV slider does. Now, I have this in my notes. What did I mean by this? Oh, this was another infuriating one. Every single bad guy in Survivor is bound to have their ups and downs. When you notice, for example, a bad guy becomes a thing of frustration, is it easier to look at the add-ons or the base kit when initializing a balance for a baddie? Easier? That depends on the complexity of the base kit and the add-ons. Smiley face. When we look at updating a baddie, we try to address frustrations problems directly. Sometimes it ties more to add-ons, sometimes the base kit, sometimes both. Duh. That is not that was this was a softball. We know that. Why are you giving this answer? The person just plainly asked you, "Hey, there's a lot of things that go into it when you first look into, doing balance, do you all look at the kit first or the add-ons first? You could have just said typically the power first. We see Blight still around with his add-ons. Spirit's add-ons just got touched up. Pyramid Head definitely hasn't had any love with add-ons. Instead, they tried out a PTB where his power inflicted um torment with the M2. We see Trickster right now, and then I have add-ons that are making it so do the same thing, and Eerie that does pretty much the same thing as a purple. We have redundant add-ons in here. That was a softball. You clearly could have just said, typically we look at the power first. Because so far in this entire game's history, I would, if you in the comments can tell me where they've ever looked at add-ons first and not just the power first, please, please go on. So this just agitated me because this was a softball. If you're going to answer it like, come on now, there's tons of times where you all answer things like, hey, can't really discuss our plans right now, that's cool. But this was a softball. You could have lied. You could have said, typically, we look at the add-ons first. And then we all be sitting there like, man, how come everybody's add-ons are butt then? I'm seeing you all address a brown add-on for Knight that actually was kind of a nerf when you use it, thinking that that's good because it has a high play rate, but instead Knight is still pretty add-on dependent on 2 add-ons. No, you don't look at the powers like that. Or you don't look at the add-ons like that. Because mind you, that's after Knight has had an adjustment where now not only, hey, that green orb from the beginning, like why did we ever say that was the good thing to see all the time? But now there's also movement bonus for drawing a path and whatever. This was just such an easy like layup that you could have just slam dunked into just, hey, yeah, typically we look at the power first. I'm like, why is this here? Why are these here? This is what gets me annoyed. Now, I have this in my notes. What did I mean by this one? Oh, right. An idea that's been here for millennia. Will we ever be able to use or to sell unwanted offerings and add ons back to the entity for some BP? Not planned at the moment, but that's an interesting idea. You know what? I'm glad that they think it's an interesting idea, but it's not a new one. This idea has been here at least as long as I've been playing. What do you mean that really? I've seen fan concepts drafting this entire thing up. Like we could have just this might be me being too harsh and just me being who I am where I'm a little bit sometimes I'm too harsh on some things and reading too much. This could be just a nice little tack on like, you know what? Thank you for asking the question. That's a nice idea. Maybe I'm reading too much into this part. But this was fine. You know, or even a better answer is just like, hey, people have mentioned this for a while now, but it's not currently something that we were thinking about doing, like you answer for everything else. Oh my gosh. Then what was the next one I had on this list? Oh, yeah, why are we still doing this? What's the status of depipping outside of DCing? Since grades are not affecting matchmaking anymore, these seem outdated and more punishing than they should. Is there a possibility to remove these? Well, first off, great. You know what? Not going to do first off. But this has been extensively discussed within the team. We are looking into it and we will share more info in the future. I'm glad that they're looking into it. But man, this has been outdated for a long time. Like, there's been no purpose in it for a very long time. Besides to make you feel bad, I guess. And for that, you have the community. Like, trust me, the community will make you feel bad enough. So don't really know why depipping is even a thing still, especially when it is just to get some extra BP on the 13th of every month. But hey, at least they're looking into it, I guess. Then back to, oh, we don't want to encourage playstyles, but then we have this where, and I know this is exactly, they're saying exactly the opposite of what I'm mocking right now, but I'll explain why I give it that tone. For the Twins rework, what does adjusting the slugging meta mean? First off, definition. Mike, don't know why we need a definition for that one, but okay. Slugging equals downing survivors without picking them up and hooking them, leaving them on the ground and rushing off to down more survivors. Please, if you play in Twins, you know rushing off to do anything is not a possibility. We've noticed that for many players, the optimal way to play the current Twins kit is to slug survivors heavily with Victor. This isn't a very fun playstyle for survivors, as you end up spending a lot of time on the ground, not able to do anything. So, the Twins update will change the kit to encourage other kinds of playstyles more. Mike. Now, what's the problem with this one? What could Mista possibly have an issue with this? My issue is that the Twins update will change the kit to encourage other kinds of playstyles more. Oh, we're going to make them a functional baddie so that they have the option to actually hook people without losing? Victor better be able to hook people or call Charlotte over or something. Like, I need to see Victor doing dunks with the survivors on the hooks, especially now that, hey, we figured out how Chucky can hook people. I know it would make no sense if Victor got picked up by not Charlotte, but hey, what do you mean other playstyles? The other playstyles, according to this entire AMA that I've seen so far, is slugging, tunneling, or trying to play the game, but can't play the game because, well, I don't have the perk for it. I don't have any gen regression because I've decided to stop being a new player. So my bad, my bad. I should have just stayed a new player and just dropped it immediately. Might be on that one. Um, hey, tunnelers want to tunnel, but you know, don't want to let them tunnel, so can't do that. And hey, we made this bad guy super ineffective at doing anything besides slugging. So we're going to make it so that they're not slugging. I have zero faith in this. I have zero faith in this. And it is perplexing, really, how Twins hasn't been addressed sooner with more in depth hints as to what is planned for them because the Twins rework has been talked about for a very long time. But to brighten it up, let's talk about this one. You said that for 2023 you wanted to do a sci-fi theme for horror. Are there any other themes you want to do for future chapters? Now, before I get into their answer, I want to talk about this, and because I was going to make this a separate video, but I'll be interested if you're this far and you telling me your thoughts on it. I, for the longest time, thought I hated sci-fi horror, but I have always known that my biggest ones that I wanted in DbD were Resident Evil, which I got, especially with Nemesis, and Alien, which I got. Not necessarily how I wanted, but still got. So that's pretty sci-fi horror. So what's been my beef with sci-fi horror this entire time? I think it's just the fact that it's really easy to be bad at sci-fi horror. Like, it is really easy to make some goofy-ish and just put it out there into the world for everybody to see. If you all have watched the Sci-Fi Network, if you're from America, I think it might be in other countries, not sure. or sorry, specifically the U.S. Uh, if you've seen sci-fi, you've seen some bad science fiction horror. Okay, so I think I've always given it a harsher rep, even though I actually do like it. But it's just really easy to make it like bad. So tell me your favorite genre of horror. Now, mind you, that's not my favorite. Mine would have to still be folk horror, followed by psychological, and then probably sci-fi upon this revelation. But let me know what your favorite is if you've made it this far, and just to brighten up the day a little bit. But for the answer that they've given, yes, all chapters have a strong theme we work around. Sci-fi was not an exception, even though it was maybe more of an extreme theme. To be fair, that was Singularity and then Licensed Baddie. So not like you all had to do too much work there on coming up with it, but hey, we'll take it. Medieval, feudal Japan, nightmares, folklore, etc. There's always a theme, and they'll be used in the future as well. Dave. Dave, you could have just said personally what other themes you want to do for future chapters. We are aware of what a theme is. You could have just said your answer, Dave. Now they were asking you to tell a little bit more about yourself, make it a little bit more human. But hey, I guess you can't give any hints, right? Alright. This is one that I've seen on the interwebs a lot. That I'm gonna just summarize. Or actually I'll read the first one and then summarize the rest, because I'm not going through all of this. You guys claimed last AMA that a dislike of FOMO is why you didn't have prestige rewards past P9, but that doesn't exactly make sense for two reasons. People are free to prestige in their own time, it's not like their levels are going anywhere, and you already have actual limited time content in the game twice a year with the Halloween and winter events, to the point where cosmetics that have been accessible at any time for years have now been locked behind a window for a few weeks. Why claim FOMO as the reason why you are hesitant to add more rewards for dedicated players when there's already substantial amounts of limited content already in the game? Prestige and limited time content are significantly different for us in the sense that the prestige option should always be there for all players, whereas limited content is almost always linked to seasonal events such as Anniversary, Halloween, Bone Chill, etc., which again ties back to us not wanting to clog up the inventory store view for players with the relative season is not active. Rose. Who greenlit that? Why? Whoever cared about the store being clocked? There's some of the characters have zero cosmetics. There's a distinct lack of cosmetics in this game still, especially for the bad guy side. Yeah, I'm a little bit salty about that. And for certain survivors. I remember when people were begging Hattie to get another outfit. And I think she's gotten two since that time. Who remembers Jonah? Did he finally get something? And what's that other one that everybody tells me that they don't see? Jeff? I seem to attract Jeffs. I see Jeff regularly. I don't know about everybody else, but apparently everybody claims they don't see Jeff. But, like, there are survivors that don't have anything. There's baddies that, for one reason or another, don't have anything. Mostly the licensed ones, where it's just like bone dry. But let's not act like all of them have the same love as Huntress has received. Where every event, every other day, there's just some random, oh, new Huntress weapon. Oh, new Huntress. Like, what? Hello? Clog up the inventory view. Bro, you are too far behind to be doing that anytime soon. But whatever, I digress. And then, I figured we save the best for last. Yeah, I'm that corny. We're talking about save the best for last. Could we get specifics to the changes to save the best for last? It's one of those perks that I don't feel like needs a lot of adjusting, as it only really helps M1 baddies as opposed to high tier baddies like Nurse or Blight. This person is telling the truth. Ooh, I wish I could spill the beans all over the place, but I am strictly forbidden. Smiley face. What I can say is that we've been pretty cautious with this perk and the changes are not dramatic. Mike. Behavior likes to play with things and leave it after its time in the spotlight is done. If Save the Best for Last comes out on the PTB, anything less than amazing, and then they address it after the PTB one time, and it may be a hot fix, and leave it, and make it so that the top tier nurses and blights, people who can't use a perk that just makes the M1 baddies a little bit better, it's done. It's done. It's so done. It is not something that needs to be addressed whatsoever. That's one of those perks where it is, oh, it works really good against new players. That's one of those, right? Right? Like, after you play the game for a little bit, and you know to just throw on windows of opportunity and chain things together, Stabiffle doesn't hit the same, does it? So, if new players are just going against new players, does it matter? Now, I guess you could argue that's why you don't have Jolt. You have Save the Best for last. Coming from a licensed character, right? So, that's another example of this is a perk that works really good against people that don't really know what they're doing. And it's just quality of life on kind of the rest of the roster, right? It's a quality of life perk. It's not terribly amazing. You're better off bringing a lot of other things more often than not. I don't care how many times you all say that it's amazing on Clown. You cannot control when you lose stacks. It's not that great. It really isn't. But, you know, really, save the best for last. So, what's the compensation, right? Again, I didn't read through all this, so if you have, please feel free to tell me in the comments what the improvements are for kind of the other side too. I don't have faith in any of the reworks they've proposed on the roadmap, especially because a lot of them don't need to be touched. Truly, and I really don't have faith that they'll get twins right this time around, especially after what they've done to my boy Trickster. So, hey, if you like the video, like it. Got a comment from me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.